We're heading into MLS Week 7 this Easter weekend with a full card of 14 matches taking place on Saturday. Through 6 weeks, there's still 3 undefeated teams, Cincinnati, LAFC, and Minnesota, but also 3 winless teams, the LA Galaxy, Sporting Kansas City, and Colorado. Let's dive into this week's slate of games for our MLS Week 7 best bets. Our first pick is going to come from the New England and Montreal game. No team has dropped off from one year to the next as much as Montreal has. They're near the bottom of tons of statistical categories. They have 1 win, 3 goals scored. They've allowed the second most goals with 12. They rank 28th in XG, 29th in XGA, 28th in both shots and shots on target, 28th in shots allowed, and 26th in shots allowed on target. The Revolution drew 1-1 last week, but they had some questionable VAR decisions go against them. They're still 4-1-1 on the year. They're undefeated at home this season, and they have lost only twice in their past 17 home games dating back into last season. I think the Revs will have too much for a Montreal team this week as they're just the better team all around and they're playing at home. We're picking a New England win at minus 110. Our second pick is going to be Seattle and St. Louis SC, and we're going with a Seattle win in this game. Here we have 2 of the hottest teams in the league in the Western Conference, in this Western Conference showdown. Hands up if you thought after 6 weeks it would be expansion team St. Louis that was top of the pack with 15 points and Seattle trailing in second with 13 points. There should be 0 hands up for that question, as that's a big shock to everybody. It's simply not normal for an expansion team to win 5 games out of the gate, but they finally came crashing back to earth last weekend when they lost 1-0 to Minnesota. These positions in the standings could change after this week if Seattle takes the 3 points, and that's exactly what I see happening. You can't take anything away from St. Louis. Like I said, you couldn't have expected them to win that many games, but now they have to regroup after suffering their first defeat last week versus Minnesota, despite only allowing 1 shot on target, which turned out to be a PK and the game-winning goal. Of their 5 wins, though, only RSL and Austin were playoff teams last season. RSL were barely a playoff team, and Austin, while they're still expected to have a strong year this year, there's no doubt they have been struggling this year and have a weak defense so far. Seattle have only lost once in their past 10 home games going back in the last season, and I think that form should continue on Saturday. Sounders are 4-1-1 on the year. They've scored 12. They've only allowed 3, and Jordan Morris is the hottest striker in the league with 8 goals scored. Let's go Seattle win at minus 143 odds. And our third best bet for this weekend in MLS will be a 3-game parlay looking at goal-scoring props. We're going to start with DC and Columbus. These teams just played at the beginning of March, and the Crew won 2-0 at home behind 2 goals from Lucas De La Rayon. The Crew are tied for the league lead with 15 goals scored, and they scored in each of their 6 games thus far. All of those games have seen 2 or more goals, something that has occurred in 5 of 6 DC games as well. Recent scorelines prior to this season between these teams have seen 3 or more goals scored in 5 straight. I think we can see at least 2 or more here once again. We'll go over 1.5 goals between DC and Columbus, and we will also go over 1.5 goals with New York City FC and Atlanta United. Atlanta has scored in all 6 of their games so far, leaving them 3rd in league scoring. A bet on both teams to score between these teams has hit in 10 of 13 games between them all time. Naturally, that means there's been very few clean sheets, but New York City FC has actually scored in 12 of 13 all-time games against Atlanta. New York has only 6 goals in 6 games this season, which isn't great, but in New York, they've scored in 14 straight and also in 22 of 24 games. New York's home field and Atlanta's electric scoring threats, such as Thiago Almada, who has 4 goals already, should be enough for us to see at least 2 goals in this one. And keeping with the theme of over 1.5 goals, we will also go over 1.5 with LAFC and Austin. In 6 all-time meetings, we've never seen fewer than 2 goals scored between these teams. The scores last year were 3-0, 4-1, and 2-1. In 2021, they were 2-1, 2-0, and 2-0. Only one of Austin's games this season have seen fewer than 2 goals scored. LAFC have already seen 2 0-0 games, including last week, but those came against Seattle, who've only allowed 3 goals this year, and Colorado. Now, Colorado did get thrashed 4-0 in week 1 against Seattle, but since then, they've tightened up defensively, and they've only allowed 4 goals in their past 5 games. There should be too many offensive threats on the field in this game, coupled with a weak Austin defense, for us to not see at least 2 goals. Furthermore, in fact, in the past 53 LAFC home games, there have been 2 or more goals scored in 51 of them. So it seems like a safe bet. We should see at least 2 goals here. So for the MLS parlay this week, we'll go over 1.5 goals in DC Columbus, New York and Atlanta, and LA and Austin. That gives you minus 104 odds. Those are my 3 picks for MLS Week 7. Good luck, everybody.